I'm about ready to call for to see if we have enough members in the chamber to make sure that everyone hears this talk. Now, members, I want to tell you what an honor it is, not just to stand up here today, but to have stood up here many times over the last 12 years. They pass very quickly. And Todd and Weldon, and I'm sorry, apparently the thousands and thousands of people that were here got the wrong day for us to give our farewell speech, right? They were all here to hear it, but unfortunately they missed it. But hopefully it'll be recorded and they can get it. But my talk is going to be very short today because I've been assured by the floor leader, as soon as I'm finished, we get to go home. I think that's what's going to happen. But no, my speech talk will be about as long as Representative Scott Inman's second in closing. When he said in closing the second time, I was hoping that maybe I'd be able to go get something to drink. But no, it is an honor here today. And let me tell you something about being here. And the members that came before me, they talked about this building, and especially this room. You know, this is the people's house. I'll tell you about my house. When I was born, my house, we had no electricity. We had no running water. But it wasn't anything different than all the Cherokee people living around me. It was just commonplace, just what we did. You know, in my first school, and I've spent my life trying to convince people I'm not this old, but my first school was a one-room schoolhouse. And my mother sent me and my sister across our pasture every day to make sure we got there, to make sure we got home. And when I was in the first grade, I actually set the curve in my class. I had the highest score every single assignment that I had in the first grade because I was the first grade. I was the only one there. Second year, it all fell apart. We had a little girl move in, she took over. But it was quite an experience, and I'll never forget the teacher that I had in that building. That teacher taught me there's more to education than reading and writing and arithmetic. There's caring for those kids in those desks. That's how you get a child through school. And that public school, that one-room school, began my formal education. My mother and father never finished elementary school because they had to work to support their families. And they got married and not much changed. They both had to work. But my father was a union iron worker. And through his hard work, he provided a life and a livelihood for his children that he could have never experienced as a young person. And so that's part of the reason that on the day I was born a Democrat, I was born a Union man, and I was born a Cherokee. And none of those things have changed. I've stayed the same. My mother worked hard each and every day. And when she was not working outside the home, she was working hard inside the home, taking care of children when my father in construction had to be gone all week long, and she had to make sure that her children were well taken care of. There was three of us. My older brother, Jim, my older sister, Janie, and Janie is a registered nurse, and she served us here on the floor of the house, and unfortunately I lost her about a year ago. But we three grew up on the farm, and we had a tremendous time. We never knew there was anything wrong. We never knew we were lacking in anything because we weren't. We were not lacking in anything. But to serve in this House of Representatives, the lights on every day, the water runs almost all the time in the bathrooms, and so that's a good thing. And so sometimes when things get difficult in here, and I know all of you do it, we look around and we think how indeed fortunate we are to be in this building, in this room, in these chairs. Not many people do it. There may be 101 of us in here every day, but all through these years, that still doesn't add up to very many. You all are very special. You deserve respect. You deserve recognition. And I admire each and every one of you, and I wish you all the best in the years to come. Now my wife and my children. My oldest daughter is Amy Hoskin Everett, lives in Muskogee. My son, who's Secretary of State of the Cherokee Nation, is Charles Hoskin Jr. I thought that was a tremendous idea about 43 years ago, but it hadn't turned out very good because when people start calling for Chuck, we never know which Chuck they're talking about. But our last name is indeed Hoskin, Hoskin, so that kind of separates us from a lot of Hoskinists. And you all have, by and large, except for Representative Vaughn, I don't know if he's here, you've done a great job of calling me by my legal name, which is Hoskin, and I appreciate that. But my wife, and I know everyone here is married think they have the greatest wife on earth, but I guarantee you I do. I promise you, I do. I wake up each and every day thankful that my wife is beside me. Whether she's physically there or not, she's always at my side. I would not be standing here had it not been for my wife. But Stephanie, I love you. I always will. I'm glad we don't have a 12-year term limit on our marriage. Of course, we're past that, so it's too late for you to quit now. And then we get to my youngest child. And those of you that served here a while, remember her. You remember when my wife carried her into the chamber up there? She weighed 5 pounds, 5 ounces. 5 pounds, 5 ounces. She's a little bit bigger than that now. Amelia has grown up among you, members of this House of Representatives, and she has a world of respect for all of you. The party doesn't mean anything to her. She has a tremendous respect for all of you. Growing up in here, she's become accustomed, and I encourage anyone that has young children on the floor to bring them with you. Make them be a part of this building, because just like we giving this farewell today, it doesn't last forever. Bring them here. Let them experience it. Let them know what this building means to the people of this great state. Amelia grew up, and I think she learned how to climb stairs in this building. She loved it. The stairs were covered with carpet, so hey, that's pretty good. If you fall down, don't get hurt too bad. But she has become so familiar with this building and so accustomed to things in it. I had her down here on the floor the other day in my chair, and she had a classmate with her, and she was in the other chair. And Amelia looked around, she said, "Where's Stu?" She was wanting a photo taken with her little friend there, and she knew that Stu was the person to take care of that. So she was looking for Stu. Now, my oldest daughter, Amy Hoskin Everett, she has my grandson, one of my grandsons, Thomas. Thomas is going to be 7 years old. My son, Charles Hoskin Jr., has my grandson Tristan and my granddaughter Jasmine. I cherish them both. And I thank the good Lord that he decided to live in his hometown of Veneta, so those grandchildren are there every single day. But our children truly are one of the main reasons why all of us are in here, either children or grandchildren. And we can't lose sight of that. We can't lose sight of the fact that the decisions we make every day affect those children. Just like the thousands and thousands of teachers that were up here just a couple of weeks ago, they were here not looking for raises in their paycheck. They were looking for help for those kids in their classrooms. They were looking for help for those kids in those classrooms so there wasn't a classroom full of them trying to find additional desks to put in. Now, I was a classroom teacher, and I can tell you that at no time would I cherish being a first grade teacher with 30 first graders in the classroom. I don't know how on earth that happens. I don't know how you do that. But I admire you. Teachers, I admire you. And, you know, I've had the honor a few times to recognize a Veteran of the Week. And I'd like to think that you all have realized that I take that time very seriously. I mean, we all do it, and we're all honored to do it. And again, it's hard to find those veterans because, by and large, every time you ask a veteran, they'll say, no, you need to go find someone that deserves that. You need to go find someone that was in World War II or Korea or whatever. There's always an excuse for not using them. But folks, I'm standing here today to tell you that every veteran deserves it. Every single veteran deserves it. Now, it's hard for me as a veteran to stand up here and say those kind of things, but it's true. Not necessarily for me, but for all the veterans that we owe such a debt to. I have a dear love for veterans and people who spend their time in the military, because my family is no different than most Oklahoma families. My grandmother and grandfather, Ned and Nellie Hoskin, both full-blood Cherokees, had 5 sons. 4 of those 5 sons answered the call to battle during World War I and World War II. 4 of the 5 boys they sent off to fight for their country. My 2 oldest uncles, Elijah Lodge Hoskin and Ned Hoskin Jr., both fought in the battlefields of France. Neil Hoskin Jr. gave that last full measure of devotion on a battlefield in France in 1918. And another reason why this building is special to me, over in 519A, over on the Senate side, the large Senate meeting room, there's a mural on the wall. It's carried over on our side, mural up there. And a lot of people don't realize what's on that mural. But if you look very closely, you'll read those fine lines up there. Those are names. Those are people's names. Those are Oklahoma citizens who died in the First World War. And in that room, 419A, up on that wall, you'll see Ned Hoskin Jr., my uncle. So this building means a lot to me, a lot. Now, unfortunately, and I intend for someone in here to run some kind of legislation to correct it, but on that wall, they have my uncle up there as Ned Hoskins Jr. Now, I do have an eraser, and before I leave this building, it may be Hoskin. But I hope to get that changed someday, because I'm a firm believer and you need to live your life by your legal name. And you need to be recognized by your legal name. And so I'll work on that portrait later on, but I want you to realize what those portraits are. Every one of those names up there gave their life. My other uncle, Elijah Lodge, died about 3 years after the end of World War I because of mustard gas injuries to his lungs. So there's 2 of my grandmother and grandfather's children who gave their lives. My third uncle in World War II, Neil Hoskin, he was disabled for the remainder of his life in World War II. And fortunately, he lived a fairly long life for someone as disabled as he was. And then we get to my father, Sam Hoskin. Through the great grace of God, he came home to his family uninjured. And he was able to work his entire life to make a better world for his family. So that is some of the reasons why veterans are so important and so special. And I encourage each one of you to try to reach out and find one next session. Everyone can't get one, but try to find one and try to recognize them. You know, and now I get to the part of the staff. We could talk all day about the staff of the Oklahoma House of Representatives and never give them enough credit. But we should, and we should try. I have a tremendous amount of respect for the sergeants. And those of you that came in with me, it was rather embarrassing when they opened the doors for us. You know, we can open our own doors. And I'm glad that changed. And you know, when I first got here, there was a sergeant here by the name of Johnny Swartz. I don't know if many people remember him, but he was from Bonita, my hometown. I've known him for years, but I did not know he was a sergeant. First time I saw him, I said, Johnny, how on earth did a Bonita boy end up as a sergeant in the Capitol? He said, I earned it. How'd you get here? So that told me real quick that, you know, I needed to give due respect to the sergeants, and I do. I appreciate each and every one of you. But, you know, getting back to my children, and Randy, I see you sitting there. Randy and I had a conversation the day that I introduced my new daughter on the floor, and he made some comments about my age, her age, and those kind of things, but it was all in good nature. And I told him at the time, I said, well, I'm not sure she's my last child anyway. And Randy, I'm here today to tell you I'm not sure today, you know. Stephanie may be, but I'm not sure today. I haven't forgotten that conversation, Randy, and I appreciate it. I really do. Now, my seatmates. You know, we're all blessed, or at least most of us are blessed, with great seatmates, people that we enjoy sharing our lives with. I've been here long enough, I've had 3 seatmates. A lot of you still remember Mr. Ryan Kiesel. Great guy. Great OU fan, great OU grad. And then I had Ben Shear. And who does not remember Ben Shear? Everyone remembers Ben Shear. And then my last seatmate, who's gone early, and I'll tell you why in a minute, but Dr. Brian Renninger. Dr. Brian Renninger is special today in my heart and always will be. He made sure I got the greatest dog in the history of the world, and that's a corgi. Okay? And he was also there the day after my daughter was born in her hospital room wanting to hold her. I'll never forget it. But these 3 gentlemen that I sat with, they all had outside lives. Ryan Kiesel had dreams far beyond the Oklahoma House. Matter of fact, he only stayed 6 years, and then he left. A brilliant attorney. And then he decided that being a regular attorney was not his calling. And he became the executive director of the ACLU in the state of Oklahoma. And he represents everyone in their constitutional rights. It doesn't matter if it's a D or an R or an I, that doesn't matter to him. Constitutional rights is what matters to Ryan. And then Ben Shear. I had the great fortune of listening to his children and their exploits they had during the 10 years he and I served together. I heard about all the ball games he missed. I heard all about the dancing recitals that he missed, because he had Bennett, he had Samuel, and he had Delaney. And he had come back every Monday morning telling me what a great weekend he had because he spent it with his family. And those of you that know Representative Shear know that's the truth. That's exactly what he did. Didn't do anything else. And you'll all be happy to know, and some of you may know, that his oldest son, Bennett, was invited by the wrestling coach at Oklahoma State University to walk on. So that's where he'll be attending next fall. Now, Ben called me one day, and we talk a lot, but he was especially excited, and I was waiting for, why'd you call me, Ben? You know, I didn't want to ask. Then he told me. He said, man, I got to go to the campus, and I got to go with Bennett, and we talked to the coach, and you know, that's what it's all about. And that's what he's experiencing now that he has that cherished, precious time outside the House of Representatives. Ryan Kiesel didn't have children when we sat together, but he does now. He has Oliver and Claire, and he thinks the world of them. And his wife, Allison, is everything that he dreams of. And so that's a great life for that young man. Brian Renninger. Brian Renninger has been my seatmate now for 2 years. And Brian's not here today. It's not because he's shirking his duty, because he didn't want to shirk the duty that he has at home. Last summer, Dr. Brian Renninger adopted his grandson. And he called me as he walked out of the courtroom. He said, Chuck, the court just gave my grandson to us through an adoption. Couldn't be more proud. And I could hear his voice cracking. Well, he's missed a lot of things with his grandson, or slash his son now, but he wasn't going to miss today. Reese had an honors banquet back in McAllister. And he said, you know, 10 years from now, I won't remember all the House bills that you all hear today and vote on, but I would remember if I didn't go to my son's banquet. So that's the choice he made, and I think he made the right choice, because the rest of us here would do the things that we've got to do. But those guys are just examples of all of you. They're no different than all of you. All of you give up so much to be in this chamber every single day. I admire you all. And getting back to me being a Cherokee, you know, there's no question I'm an Oklahoman and I'm American, and I'm fiercely proud of all of those. But folks, the Cherokee Nation is a very special place. And I know there's other Cherokees in here today. And I know oftentimes when we have financial problems in the state, we want to say, why don't the Indians do more? Well, folks, I hope that after I'm gone, that you all will continue to work to be good partners with our tribes. Our tribes are very powerful and always willing as tribes to be partners with this great state because we all live in this together. We do. You know, and Cherokee Nation doesn't believe in we're only going to do good things for Cherokee people and that's all. No, we don't do that. And all the tribes are that way. So when you talk about the tribes doing more, you'll understand what they do already. Cherokee Nation averages 1.3 million patient visits a year to our healthcare facilities. Just stop for a minute and think if those same individuals access state care, access private hospitals. What a burden. And so we take care of our people so the state doesn't have to the very best of our ability. And all the tribes are that way. So get to know the tribes. Get to know what they're willing to do, how they're willing to help, because they are. It's not a one-way street for any of us. No one has enough by themselves. The tribes are always willing to work. They simply ask you to listen and to talk and to have those conversations before things go too far. And I know there's so many of you in here that have stood and championed bills that I and others have run that affect the tribes, and I respect that immensely, and I want it to continue. And when I say that, I'm talking about people on the floor of this house that are not tribal members, they're Oklahomans, and they know that that's the best way to approach things. You know, I have to recognize one last time the teachers of this great state. Because ladies and gentlemen, those of you in classrooms, you know, you have a tremendous responsibility, but you have a tremendous opportunity. All those children depend on you. They depend on you to provide them a safe place to come to every day. They depend on you to provide a place where they can get a hot meal. They depend on you for a chance to succeed in this world. That's how much responsibility a teacher has. And ladies and gentlemen, those of you out in the classroom, I want you to know right now that out sitting in that classroom may be one poor child that may someday grow up to be a member of the Oklahoma House of Representatives or beyond. Or higher than that, maybe one of those poor children in your classroom may grow up to be a teacher. And for that, I'm thankful for what you do each and every day. Members, I want you to know that I ask that God bless you. God bless this House of Representatives. And God bless our great state of Oklahoma. Thank you.